Alright, ladies and gents, I've had a lot of requests to see a brew day in action. So what I'm going to do is step you through my brew day. Today we're going to be making a German Pilsner, and I'll show you what happens at the brewery. So today we're going to be using 3-vessel configuration, but basically what we're going to do is a no sparge, full mash volume, and we have our hot liquor tank, mash tun with the standard false bottom today, boil kettle. We got the brewery controller here. This is the interface. We have the recipe computer as well, and then so how the process works is, first off, craft a recipe in Beersmith. Then what I do is let's see if I can do this one-handed. I then take and export this recipe as a beer XML. Once that happens, I then connect to my controller via a web interface, and then I just upload that recipe, which this is our Pilsner recipe today, in one of my recipe slots. The nice thing about the beer XML file is it has all my tangibles right here, mash temps and all that. Export it right to the controller, and then I'm left with a beautiful beer XML file on my controller, and that's how it pulls up all the recipe and the parameters and knows what to do. So that's the overview. I'm gonna head and put this camera on a tripod. I'm gonna go back into the grain room, get our grains today. Here's our hops today. We have a little blend going on. And like I said, I'll get this back on the tripod. We'll start getting some water transferred, get the grains measured, and we'll see you back here in a second. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my recipe that you saw me import into the controller so we can get this brew day started. So first thing, unlock the controller, start my program, which is Slonghammer. It's going to ask me if anything changed. I'm going to say no. I'm going to click start. That brings me to the fill screen. Now here's where I deviate a little bit. You can see my target volume. What I do is I go fill hot liquor tank. Oh, sorry for the camera fumble. That starts the valve to fill the hot liquor tank. So basically that's going to fill the hot liquor tank, and it's going to fill it until it gets to its, where it wants to be. Which you can see right there. There you go, valve shut off. This is how close it got with that flow of water. It's about 1/10 off, but that doesn't matter to me because I'm going to be pre-boiling and losing that 1/10 anyways. So, alright, I will reorganize the camera here, go grab the grains, start the pre-boil of this water. Also, I forgot to talk about actually water building. We can get into that more when it falls into the normal process, which is after I measure my grains, I measure my water. So I'll reposition and we'll be back. Okay, just to take you back here. Right now we have warm water. That's going to be a hot liquor tank transfer. Once we do the hot liquor tank actual transfer to the mash tun. We have the mash tun set up in the configuration I like, false bottom, custom mash filter bag that I use. Because we're pre-boiling in the hot liquor tank, I have the hot liquor tank coil, which is going to act like a permanent immersion coil when it gets to boiling, so I can cool it down quick and then dough in. So basically we have quick disconnects from the water and to the drain. Basically, as I said, a permanent immersion coil. So I'm going to start getting the grain ready and organized, get you back on a tripod, and we'll go from there. So I have all my grains assembled, specialty grains on the counter there, and then base malt down in the corner. Nothing too crazy about this. I just weigh them out and then we'll put them in a container and we'll do some conditioning. I'm a big proponent of subtle malt layering and flavoring. If you have a solid brew process and brew a solid beer, you can really pick out these little nuances in the beers. So I'll take you through measuring and weighing the grains, and I'll show you then conditioning after that. So yeah, so you saw that right. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 malts in a Pilsner. Alright, so I'm back here with brewing water. Here's my water profile. It's just what I found that works. I really don't alter it for any different beer styles. It's pretty much my main water profile, and then I augment malt and hops to counteract it or balance it. So basically, just measuring my water salts, you know, gram scale. I'll only be adding 2 different minerals today, and so I'll get to that right now. Okay, so just adding grain to the mill here. We're gonna start milling. It's about that time. 3 roller mill, Captain Crush. All rollers as tight as they can go. I wish they'd actually go tighter personally, but that's about it. It's all motorized, so hit the button, grain starts feeding, and I'll just keep feeding in grains as they go down. And after this, we'll take a look at the crush. Bucket. We'll see if we can take a look at the actual crush. All the kernels are popped. They're not totally shredded, but you have a nice kind of intact husk, nice and fluffy. That's what I look for. Okay, so just add our water salts. I add them right to here. Now we'll actually add the grains to the mash tun, because what I do is underlet the water from the bottom so the grains can go in there first. So I'll reorganize and we'll show you that. Adding grains to the mash tun, it's nothing special. Just literally dump them right in. Let the fan suck up the dust. You can see the crush again here. Nice and fluffy, but everything's cracked. Definitely aids in lautering and all that fun stuff. Our hot liquor tank is almost to boil, so this all comes together pretty quick. We'll reposition and get you ready for dough in. Okay, so I'll take you freestyle just a second here to show you nothing left in the boil kettle. It all got transferred to the hot liquor tank. Mash is going. I'll explain the mash to you and once I get you repositioned. So I'm going to try and take you freestyle here again to kind of explain how my mash system works. So I showed you the Herms, and that's that permanent immersion coil in the hot liquor tank. Then I have my mash pump and mash valves. So how this works is the mash tun out is right here. That's the valve on the far right. In that valve there's a temperature probe, and so it goes out from that valve to the manifold, into the pump, back up the top of the manifold, and it's got an option to go two places. Place one, which I call the cooling loop, is straight out of there through the sight glass straight into the top of the mash tun. Loop 2 is the heat loop, and that loop goes straight out of the manifold into the Herms and then out and back in. Both converge back here, this one straight up and this one in behind. And so what it does, there's another temperature probe here, and based on those two temperature probes in those locations, it's going to throttle these two valves, and those two valves of the heat loop and the cool loop are going to average to 0.1 degree of temperature resolution in the mash tun. Being that I circulate, I can achieve great temperature stability and do all sorts of cool stuff with that. So I'm going to put you back on the tripod. We're just going to stare at the sight glass, and in editing I'll try and fast forward through it. Actually, I'll take you back here to the actual control panel. Each one of these lighted knobs represents a valve or a pump. Right now the mash is at temperature, so basically what you have is the cooling loop, which is mash pump, mash tun out, and the cooling loop. This sets my flow on the pump output valves. This valve is actually part of the hot liquor tank. While the mash is going, the hot liquor tank has its own pump, and it's cycling that water to keep even temperatures in the hot liquor tank. But what's going to happen now is, and we might see it, is it's going to pulse those two valves. Right now it's at temperature and it's full 100% on the cooling loop. So it's at temperature or above temperature. It's actually at temperature. So we don't have to, so it's not going to pulse that hex loop, the heat loop. but we might be able to see it here depending on what happens. There you go. So it sensed a little low, so it pulsed that valve for the heat just to bump that temperature up quickly. It saw the temp bump rise and shut off. So that's what that's going to continue to do for the entirety of the mash, and it would do it for as long as I ever wanted it to do it. So I'll reposition you at the sight glass and we'll go from there. Alright, so I got you back staring at the sight glass on the mash tun. Hopefully with the lighting and whatnot we'll be able to kind of see it go through the steps and see beta come through and finish up, and then alpha, and then mash out. You should see it get crystal clear. Right now, as you can see, because of my mash filter, there's no chunks. Maybe I'll take you back freehand. Here's where I leave the brewery completely. I have my remote brewing tablet, and I can see everything that needs to be seen from this tablet and be connected. So I'll kind of zoom you back here. So here's my brewing tablet with all my I need to know. It's got timers and everything, and I'll just take this with me and go about my business throughout the house. Keep an eye on it. If the timer goes off, it beeps, it sends me notifications, so I really don't have to be babysitting this. Alright, so that beeping means we're done with the beta rest. I can close the timer or shut the timer off here. I'm going to take a free hand here and give you kind of an overview. Alright, so right now it's going up to alpha rest, and I have my controller to do no more than 1 degree Celsius per minute, as that's the rule in German brewing. You never raise temperatures by faster than 1 degree Celsius per minute, or whatever, 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's gonna pause that timer, do it slow ramp at 1C, no more than 1C per minute, up to alpha, and then it's gonna rest alpha. So Hops in the kettle there. Lid and everything still on here. So basically I'm going to get the sparge started, and the runoff will collect some samples to taste and test, and we'll go from there. So the first word hops are resting. I'll kind of show you. So after sparging, I'm left with this. I never changed this. All I did was, drop this side in the kettle. So after I'm done mashing, I'll take this hose off, put it over in the sink, remove my lid, and there I'm left with my my mash. So an added benefit to the bag is to clean out my mash tun, which everything I have is clean in place. All I have to do simply grab the bag by the sides and lift it out to clean the mash tun. So it acts as a filter for me, this custom bag, and an easy way to discard all of the grains in the mash tun immediately, do my rinse cycle, and move on. So we'll come back after the first wort hops get done resting, and we'll look at the boil, and we'll go from there. Okay, so it's been 45 minutes. When I wait 45 minutes, that means I wait 45 minutes without any, keeping at mash out temperature, which we're at 170.6. We're still at 8 gallons. Now what I'll do is I'll start the brewing program, and now we'll start to heat. It takes me another 10 minutes or so to reach a boil, so I count that time in my first wort hop as well. Now you may ask yourself, why did he just rest 45 minutes for no reason whatsoever? Well, there's many reasons actually, but one of the reasons is I don't sparge. Traditionally on a first wort hop you would sparge, so you'd have the sparge time to isomerize some of those hops. Also, I saw an added benefit from the rest time and the isomerization of those oils. And in bigger brewing practices who do first wort hops, you're going to have much more time involved to heat kettles, and you're going to get much more of that hop oil into your wort with that. So that's kind of what I'm trying to emulate there. I also use that time to clean out the mash tun that has hot PBW recirculating through it right now, clean out the hot liquor tank that's doing the same, get the fermenter ready and cleaned. So I integrate all this kind of stuff into brewday, and it seems to work pretty well. So like I said, I will start the program heating, and we'll be back when it's ready to take the lid off and you can kind of see the boil. one other thing to note about the brewing controller. So let me move you over here to kind of give you a snapshot of it. So basically the brewing controller knows when it's about to boil by temperature and what I program into it. So basically it's going to run this element, which is a Glickman boil coil, the 3700 watt element, which I absolutely love. It's going to run that at 100% until it reaches about 205 degrees. In my tests, I found that the foam ups start to occur at around 205 degrees, plus or minus. So basically when it gets to that temp, to eliminate boilovers completely, it's going to lower or draw back that power, and then it's going to start to pulse it at about 70% using the PID that's built into the controller. So that way I will never achieve a boil over, and I can get the exact precise boil rate and boil flavors I'm looking for. So I'll turn you back to the kettle, but I just wanted to give you that heads up. Just calibrating the meter here. I showed you in the other video. Set this in the kettle as well until we know where we want to be. Put the lid on. Alright, so we're calibrated here. Taking my reading. Still waiting for my reading to settle. Looks like that reading put me at real close to 12. 11 points, roughly 11.75. I don't know if we can see that here. I just jostled it, of course. So somewhere around there is what I just did, which was some pretty vigorous stirring and the 1/4 liter per minute and the whole wort deal. So basically I'll lock this guy up. It's good to go. And we're at 46 degrees. The yeast has already been pitched, so we'll be ready to put this right in the fermentation chamber. That'll be set. I'll give you a shot of the whirlpool and the trube. 1 second. So that's what it looks like there. Nice little pile in the middle. That's all the hops. I don't do any other kind of filtering or anything like that. Brewing system is done. I'm going to rinse this kettle out, fill it up with PBW from this kettle, which is already cleaned. Rinse that out, rinse this out, and that's it. We're done. We're oxygenated, pitched, brewed. Game, set, match. Cheers.